Hey everyone, so today's video we are going to be talking about 3 ways to join your granny squares. I've got several samples here. We are going to be doing a couple different methods. So this one is using a yarn needle and whip stitching it. The second method is a join as you go method, which you can see here and also here. So I'm going to show you that one, and then also another one where you take extra yarn and you use your hook and attach to the back. As always, make sure to check out my blog post, which has lots more photos. You can save it to your Pinterest board. You can refer back to it later. It has written instructions and all that good stuff. So this is a sample, and I want to talk a little bit about how you might go about putting these together. You know, if you have your entire granny square block made, and this goes for most granny square patterns, so it doesn't matter whether it's kind of a traditional granny square block like this one or something more like this one. I have videos for both of these on my channel, so you can check those out if you need a granny square tutorial project like the pattern. You would put it together kind of like you would put together a quilt, which is you would do the rows first. So you'd put together your 2 rows, so you would do these attachments here. And then once you have your rows, then you would do the entire length this way. The first method, you need a yarn needle. So there's metal ones, there's plastic ones, it doesn't matter. You can use whatever you like, but get some spare yarn that matches one of your colors. These are highly contrasting, so use one of those or a yarn that will blend. So I'm going to show you mostly from this white side so you can see exactly what we're doing, and we just need to line everything up. And the 2 things that we need to identify before we get going are, this is the top of the stitch. Okay, so we see this little V, and we're going to be working in that outside loop. So that's going to be this guy. So we're going to start all the way in the corner, and we're going to grab the outside loop. And then we are going to find that same matching loop. So I'm going to start here in here, which is that's the center of that chain 2. And then we're going to come through with the outer loop on the other guy. And pull that through. You can make a knot. Just sort of tie it down, and then you can weave that in later. So we've got this outer part of the stitch, and then match that across with the same stitch on the other side, the outer. Here's how it looks, you know, with the 4 of them together. The only thing you need to keep in mind, really, then when you go to do the row the other direction, is to catch all your stitches. Okay, we don't want any holes to be left here, so you just make sure you catch them all as you're going down. You can decide how far you want to go with these short sides or with the long sides, but I just recommend going all the way to this corner. And that's all there is to it. So that's option 1. Okay, so now we're going to use the crochet hook, and you're going to need a longer piece of yarn for this one. I'm going to use white, and I'm going to join the 2 greens so you guys can see it really well. Right sides together, line it all up. We're going to start from the corner again, and I'm just going to pull the long piece of yarn through and tie it in a knot. Just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to put my hook in where I tied the knot, and I'm going to bring the yarn up, and then we're going to do a little stitch there. All right, now we're going to place the hook in those 2 outer loops from the stitches, just like before. Yarn over, pull through, and then continue pulling through. That's a slip stitch. All right, and then we're gonna just do the same thing. Going all the way down. Insert our hook in those outer 2 loops. And you would do this with a coordinating yarn choice. I'm using the white so that you can see it. And then there's how it looks when you open it up. So even though we're using white, you can see that it's very unnoticeable. Okay, so I'm going to finish that going all the way down, but you basically just slip stitch it. Remember, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and do that all the way to the end. And then when you're done, you reach the side, you can pull that through. So here's the thing with this method. So this is with what we just did with the hook and the extra yarn, and it kind of creates this ridge. So the other method, it lays a lot flatter. And then this is what it looks like from the front side. So here was the method that we just did with the crochet hook. Look how nice that looks from the front. And we used a contrasting yarn. So you can imagine that this would be virtually impossible to see if you used a green. So that's a nice join there. This one over here, you can see the stitch a little bit, but it's not off-putting. It kind of looks like it belongs. And it lays a bit flatter. All right, so those are 2 options. Now I'm going to show you the join as you go method, and I'm going to use some of these granny squares to show you that. But I want to show you kind of how it looks on this granny square because this is a more solid granny square. Now when you have these clusters, you're going to be able to see where we join it to the other square is here at these intersections. And you don't necessarily have those with this type of granny square. And so what I did was I joined it just every 3 stitches. And I did that as I was making this last round. Now the upside to this is that you do it as you go for that last round of your granny square. So you don't have to come back and join it all later. You can imagine that as we just did this, it could be quite a process. I mean, it's not going to take you forever, but there's extra ends to weave in. You got to have extra yarn. You know, depending on your methods, it can be a little bit more tedious rather than if you want to do it as you go. This also could be a little more secure because it's actually woven into the stitch rather than an extra piece of yarn that could unravel if you were to wash it a lot. I think this method doesn't look as good when you have contrasting yarn choices because you can kind of see where it's you know, attached versus this guy where all of those outer rounds are the same color, and so you don't see the join. So I think that would be maybe where I would draw the line. I think this is a better method for security reasons and for not doing things over and over again, just sort of, you know, doing it quickly the first time. So I like that about it. But for me personally, if I was going to join with contrasting granny squares, I like the hook method. Totally up to you. All of these are great methods. When you are getting started, you need to start with one that is finished, and meaning that it has that last round already on the granny square, okay? Because then we need to have something to attach it to. So let's get started. I have got this, I've done my 2 here, so it needs that 3rd double crochet. And we're going to attach it at the top of that stitch, right? Because we want the top of this stitch and the top of this stitch to be combined that way. So we're going to get it started. Yarn over, so we're doing that double crochet. Okay, and then before we finish up that double crochet, we're going to play, and I just kind of hold them wrong sides together because it's a little just easier to hold that way. So as we're finishing up this last part of the double crochet, we're going to go across to that same spot on the other granny square And I'm going to pick up both strands. Yarn over. I like to pull that pretty tight and then pull through. Just like that, okay? So let's do that again. So now just ignore that and continue on with your cluster over here. All right, so remember we're at the last pull through of that double crochet. So we're gonna go to the other side, that other granny square, into that same spot. And we're gonna pick up those top 2 strands and then pull through everything. So we're gonna pull through that and then pull through the top of that double crochet. Now you can see why this might be slightly more secure than the other methods, because it's part of the stitch. So there's not any risk of anything unraveling. There's also no extra weaving in that you have to do. Okay, so the last pull through of that double crochet, we're gonna come over here, pull through, and then pull through. Now here's what it looks like. You can see how it's attached. And so now what we would do is it's attached here on this corner. So then we're going to continue attaching it as necessary. So if I had another granny square here that we needed to attach, then you would continue doing that. If not, then you just ignore having to attach anything and just finish the granny square round just like you would normally. Now, I'll spread that out so that you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay, so let's say you have a row done and you're coming back through and you're coming on this side. So you would take this granny square and you attaching it here. And then when you get to the corner, you'd want to make sure you get the corner here. And attach that right in this corner, in that chain 2, and then grab that in here. Just make it look nice and neat. There we go, right there. And then continue on. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching this How to Join Your Granny Square video. Subscribe if you are not already and check out my blog post with more details. Leave me any comments down below. If you have any questions, concerns, another way you like to do it, let's help each other in the comments. You know, just give each other tips and tricks, or I will be happy to help you guys as well. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.